Well, this is our first Goonerverse podcast after a North London derby win. So it's all smiles for the three of us. And you can't blame us, right? That was sweet. 3 times in a row we have won at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I remember the days of feeling like I'll just take a draw because even the Invincibles couldn't win there. That's what I tell myself. But here we are making history. Quite literally, it's been 40 years or so since we've done something like that. So we're, of course, going to enjoy it. We're, of course, going to celebrate a little bit. But I want to really angle the conversation today towards Kai Havertz. Someone I talked about on Tactical Insight with Graham, someone who I think his work is going under the radar, and there's still an underlying conversation around him being a player who is maybe overperforming now in this role, and actually it's just the norm, and we have to accept that he is a striker that is capable of potentially leading us to the title. That's what we're going to debate with, of course, Sharoy, who does his amazing work on Sharoy's Voice, and Tosin, Arsenal fan, who, of course, you'll have seen on AFTV. Tosin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's great to have you, mate.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Mate, it's great to have you. And look, a lot of people will know this, so of course we'll address it. You've got your brother Tobes, who's a massive Tottenham fan. So I imagine these last few days have been spot on for you.
Yeah, I've been feeling pretty smug about myself, but I saw the beatdowns that he's been getting online. So I thought, let me not add to his misery. I think Spurs already gotten depressed long enough, and Skullduggery's done a number on him. So
yeah.
I think I'll just be humble.
Big up Skullduggery in the Big Six. If you missed it, which you wouldn't have, but if people did miss it, go check out the Big Six. And yeah, the roasting that went on there for Tobes and Grizz, to be fair. Fantastic platform, fantastic channel. Sharoy, great to see you sort of doing your One Mic podcast as well. And this must have been a particularly pleasurable one to do. I did tune into this one unlike last week's. I did catch this, but I just thought I've got to know what Sharoy's feeling about this. And yeah, just teeth the whole way through. I don't blame you.
Yeah, man. I mean, all of the ones I've recorded so far, we've played on the Saturday and I've recorded on the Sunday night. This was straight after the game from the studio, train full of Tottenham fans. I'm the only one on the carriage in the Arsenal hoodie. And seeing as you watched it, you probably know this, right? But I was just beaming on the train. You can't help it. You can't hold it back, right? And there's one disgruntled looking Tottenham fan next to me about to get off at King's Cross. Just brushes past me and goes, "You smug prick." And I just thought, you know what? Today, I am a smug prick. Sorry, mate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, of course. And just may as well tell you all in the meantime, before we go into it, Sharoy, of course, doing fantastic work on Sharoy's Voice. I know you've got more planned to come as well. And tossing your channel, Fleet Footed, is that right?
Yes.
And you're doing football content, Arsenal content and stuff?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, go subscribe. We're all here, finding a way to chat about the game we love, and it's never more enjoyable than after a North London derby. And of course, you've got the show Bad Blood with Toby as well. Is that going to be, that's a weekly thing, isn't it?
Well, it looks like it will be, yeah. So, yeah.
See how many Tottenham defeats. Still, that's
yeah, I was going to say, it could change very quickly.
It'll be unbearable the days we don't get a result, because he's just going to...
Yeah, I fully don't blame you. But there we go. All right, let's get into it. The North London derby, look, I think it's been hashed out to death. I think it'd be wrong not to touch on it. It is still something that we are right to enjoy even 3-4 days on. But I want to talk specifics about it. I mean, of course, Gabriel Saliba came out as 2 stars of the game. I mentioned Kai Havertz, we'll go into in good detail. What did we make of the 2 midfielders, Partey and Jorginho, who I feel like had to just do their best? And Jorginho put up an Instagram story of him, with some sort of mask on his face, trying to get oxygen or something. I don't know what it was, but clearly in recovery. Not just the first 90 minutes he's played this season, the first minutes he's played at all. And it was a performance that, whatever we give credit for to the centre-backs and the goalkeeper and Havertz leading the line and Arteta's tactics, those 2 are at the heart of it. And that's where Tottenham pack out the midfield, and they had to do a job, Sharoy.
Yeah, they had to do a job. I was getting a lot of stick in the comments for my fan cam for digging out the midfielders. Well, that's what I was being told I was doing, right? Digging out the midfielders. But I'm not questioning their work rate. They worked their asses off. Don't get me wrong. And off the ball, I thought they did absolutely everything they could to make life as difficult as they could for Tottenham. But on the ball, they'd left a bit to be desired for me. There were a number of moments where I saw Partey and Jorginho give away the ball in relatively dangerous areas in situations where I know that they are better in possession. There was actually one clearance where Thomas Partey sort of rather lazily is leaning back in the box and just sort of gets a toe to it. Falls straight to a Spurs player, and that could have gone anywhere too, right? But these are all moments that we don't need to dwell on because we won. But they're definitely moments that a lot of fans would have been talking about had we not scored that set piece, or, God forbid, had Tottenham scored a goal, right? Let's just say this is illustrative of our squad depth in that we are in the midst of an injury crisis and we can still field two pretty high-quality midfielders and get us through a game away from home in a North London derby and keep a clean sheet. But I'm very happy Declan Rice is back. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, of course, for Atalanta on Thursday, which we will discuss in more detail. But look, they had to do a job for one game and they did it. Like, as far as I'm aware, I don't think you can go to Tottenham, win 1-0 away and have anyone that played bad. Like, even Ben White sort of got some criticism tossing, but like he did fine. Like, he put a lovely ball through to Saka in behind in the first half. He defended well, and I feel like everyone has to be at a certain level to go get that kind of result.
Yeah, I mean, with Benny Blanco, I mean, it's the usual with him. 1-on-1, he leaves a lot to be. For me, he's a great. It's weird. It's like a paradox. He's a great defender, in my opinion. For me, he defends well and he attacks really well, and he's got good passing range as well. But 1v1, if I look at that whole back line, a player that's gonna get skinned 1v1, it's after Zinchenko, it's him, right? So you kind of expect that from him. So you take what you get with Ben White. But I thought, other than that, he had a good game. And I totally agree with what you said, Shroy. It's like Jorginho and Partey. Like, I was talking up Jorginho's like progressive passing ability. I was talking that up before the match, thinking, okay, cool. In a game like Spurs, where Arteta's going to probably set us up to soak up a lot of pressure, let them have the ball, and when we get the ball, we just keep hitting them behind. I rarely saw Jorginho play the type of pass I know he can do.
How many touches from both of them? Too many touches from both of them.
Yeah, way too much.
Possession as a result.
Way too much. And I guess with Jorginho, okay, cool. Fair enough. This is your first start of the season. Or just your first set of minutes, I think, the season in a high-octane game where it's not really fluid and it's just each team pressing each other into turnovers. But I was looking for more quality, especially from Partey as well. Like, come on. He's good, but he looks leggy. I just don't know what it is. Is he carrying an injury? Is it lack of sharpness? I don't know. But it's like you said, James. Look, we won 1-0. The team defended well. We worked well as a collective. You can't really ask for more from the guys.
Yeah. And I've got to say, now, like, kind of away from the intricacies of the game, like, and I know this was us a week ago. I mean, the title of last week's podcast with Goon Lee was, stop stressing. We have a derby to win. And I think in hindsight, sure, I think we knew at the time. I'm so glad that's the message we tried to convey via that podcast, because there was so much doom and gloom in the Arsenal fan base that people just forgot we've got a really good team. And I said on Forever Arsenal that I felt this performance. I know a lot of Arsenal fans were enjoying it, and rightly so. We should all enjoy it because it's a derby they win. But I also think it was a little bit of a slap in the face to some who just, I think, forgot how good we are. Like, I know we're all one and we all enjoy it together, but there was just a little bit of a, don't doubt us though, guys. Like, I feel like there was a little bit of that. I don't know how you quantify it, but that's how I think the way the team performed and that win was just a bit like, we've got this. What are you worrying about?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I would say about that episode last week, that wasn't us sitting there saying we have to get this message out there because the fan base is down. There was no sense. It wasn't contrived. That was just genuinely how we felt. Yeah. We were just sat there thinking, how is everyone still dissecting the transfer window and writing obituaries for our season a few days before we're about to go to Tottenham? And look, being perfectly frank, what we were saying about Jorginho, what we were saying about Partey, the fact that they're not necessarily the first choice, but they can come in and work to a specific standard, that is testament to the base level that you have to be at to make it into a Mikel Arteta team now. There is no more room for sentiment. You don't just get in because you're a name. And if you want any evidence that there's no room for sentiment, look at the players that he's just let go. Emile Smith-Rowe, one of the absolute darlings of Hale End, right? You're looking at Eddie Nketiah. This is a guy that Arteta went out to bat for. And I think Arteta probably had a huge part in getting him that bumper contract. These guys are gone, man, because ultimately they don't have a part to play anymore. So all in all, the euphoria of that North London derby probably isn't going to wear off for me until about 10 seconds before we kick off against Atalanta. And I'm just going to enjoy it up until then.
Me too.
I totally agree. I mean, Tosin, come in whenever you want, by the way. But I mean, I think it should be enjoyed. Like, again, how often do you win 10 games out of your 11 away in a calendar year? How often do you go a full calendar year, not once, trailing in an away game ever? And look at the games. Like, look at the Villa Park, Tottenham twice, Man United and Old Trafford, Manchester City, the Etihad. Like, even I chuck West Ham in there. Like, these are all good places to go. Not once behind, 3 goals conceded. I want Arsenal fans, and I know that we live in this world where almost we can't enjoy Arteta's Arsenal till he's lifted a Premier League, and then everything after that we can enjoy. That seems to be the message sometimes. But it's like, enjoy the ride, like enjoy the team we've got, because they're giving us moments like this that quite literally go down as historical. No, that they're not going to be carved into the Emirates Stadium around the banners next to a trophy, design with a year. Yeah, I get it. No one's going to write down 3 wins at Tottenham Hotspur away. I get that. But like, look at the pain on their faces. Like, they are hurting because of how much the North London derby means. If these little moments don't mean anything to you, then I just think you're looking at football far too from one end of the spectrum to the other. Like, basically it's 100 or 0. Like, and the game's about more than that for me.
Yeah, I fully agree. I love what Sharoy was saying, and what you were saying as well, James. I think, and I was saying it as well when I went on other channels. This whole narrative about our team, our squad depth, quality, it's almost like people have forgotten. Like, look, like Arsenal actually have a really good team. Like, it's a really, really good team. And yeah, of course, Man City are the favourites, as they should be. They're the champions. But Arsenal's team can compete. And for me, I was irritated when I saw stuff like season's done. If this happens, season's done. If such as so that win, I'm savouring the win not just for the fact that we beat Spurs. I'm savouring the win to shut up haters within Arsenal's fan base. I'm just like, you see Paul Merson going on there, if Arsenal don't beat Spurs, season done. I'm just like, bro, come on, season done, really, like, come on. So I'm really happy. I'm happy that we've been able to show to our own fans, look, you need to trust this team. You need to back us. We can do. Arsenal's big game prowess now is just it's kind of scary. It really is kind of scary.
I need to read a comment out. This goes to exactly what James was saying about, well, it doesn't matter because you're not going to win the league anyway. This is a Tottenham fan who's commented on my channel, right? Long comment about ENIC and the ownership and so forth, but he ends with this. Until you win that title, which you're still far from winning without City getting a points deduction, it's all just cocky hot air like the past 2 seasons. So enjoy your North London bragging rights against loser Levy's ENIC Hotspur, but title success for Arsenal relies solely on a City points deduction because they're better than you, and that's that. Now, listen, I was reading that, and I just replied and said, I'm so flattered that a Tottenham fan would comment on my channel and engage. Thank you very much, and left it at that. But the idea that a Tottenham Hotspur fan is telling us that something is meaningless unless we win a trophy, for me was bizarre. I thought I was living in a parallel universe for a second. But also
extraordinary.
If constantly pushing a club that has won 6 of the last 7, 4 in a row, not letting them score against you last year, being deemed arguably the only viable challengers for them this year, if that isn't something that's worth celebrating and feeling proud of. I understand that winning is important and ultimately winning is everything, right? But the team say that. The captain says that. The manager says that. I'm not shying away from that. But that doesn't mean that if you don't get that, absolutely everything else is meaningless and you ought not to celebrate it and you ought not to feel a sense of pride when you win a derby. If that's where the game has gone, I mean, I'm trying to think of another equivalent walk of life where you'd apply that principle. Like if I'm in the gym and I'm absolutely killing it and I'm the strongest I've ever been and there's only 1 or 2 guys in this gym that are stronger than me, I will still feel very proud about the fact that I'm the 2nd or 3rd strongest guy in the gym. Obviously I'm not, but just because I'm not the best at something doesn't mean that I'm not sort of worthy of that feeling of pride. That whole mindset is just so alien to me. And I think it's something that I only really see now in football discourse and nothing else.
Very, very
yeah.
well.
I also think because football comes around so quickly, like at the time of recording, Champions League football's going on. So anyone who, Liverpool just had a bad result against Forest, didn't they? At the time of recording, they're 2-1 up against AC Milan. It's so quick that you could just move on to the next thing and sort of get on with it. Which is why I was sort of telling Arsenal fans via a tweet, I was like, look, enjoy this. Like, take it in, enjoy it. This is very rare. We're not going... I'd be amazed if we have Tottenham away in our first 4 games of next season, right? So it's going to be a year, could be well over a year till we go back to to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the hope of doing it again. Like, enjoy these moments. Okay, we might in a cup competition, but I'm talking in the league. I remember when we lost to Man United 3-1 at the start of the 22-23 season. I remember Jesus was spinning Lisandro Martinez, and we were brilliant. But we lost that game 3-1. We were done on the counter. And I remember thinking, like, all I wanted was to play them at Old Trafford again. I was like, give me that game again. Give me that fixture, because we were better. We should have won this.
Exactly.
And that was game 6 of the 22-23 season. We didn't play them till the penultimate game of last season, of this season just gone. So effectively, 3 months off of 2 years, if that my maths is right. Yeah. Like, enjoy it. Like, you just don't know when that kind of occasion is going to come. And then when you do, and they might be better for, I don't know, enjoy it. And I just feel like that's sort of lost in football, like you guys have been saying. I wanted to talk about Kai Havertz, though, as I sort of said in the intro. I'm having to change the way I think about him. We signed him a £65 million player who I think we all thought was going to play in midfield. And I'm more than happy to sit here and still say he failed as a midfielder, in my opinion, although he looked quite good in pre-season, actually, playing midfield. But since moving up front, pretty much as soon as January 1st, I think we played him in the Liverpool game in the FA Cup. He played up front. He's sort of kept that position since. He's been brilliant. I mean, numbers-wise, he's been brilliant. Performance-wise, he's been brilliant. On and off the ball, he's been brilliant. Big moments, big games, big goals. And Arsenal's form has been terrific. And we're going to go into actually doing a tier list on players we've signed from Chelsea and ranking kind of how they've done for Arsenal. But I feel like when Kai Havertz plays well, I'm still surprised, and I shouldn't be, because this is actually far more the norm in an Arsenal shirt than the first 3-4 months when we had our doubts, Tosin. What do you make of his performances, and how are you feeling about the player?
Yeah, I mean, he's been good. For me, I think brilliant is a stretch, but I think he's been good. And that's a big compliment to him, because he was dross at the start of last season. He was absolute dross, and he failed as a midfielder. But the fact that he's been able to turn it around so quickly, where unanimously, it's universally known amongst all Arsenal fans, okay, he's a good player. I think he's done a great service to his name. And I was watching an interview that he recently did with Rio Ferdinand, and I think it's just his mentality is improved. Obviously, he came to the club. The Chelsea the Chelsea PTSD can get anyone, and he spoke about how Arteta's helped him a lot. And I'm gonna say something crazy, right? Like, don't hear what I'm saying. He could literally be like a Van Persie for Arsenal, not like in terms of
that's wild, bro.
Not in terms of like a numbers, because people forget when we bought RVP, he started off as a winger stroke support striker. He never really played as the main man, right? And for several seasons, after Bergkamp left, then Henry left, you then had Adebayor there. So you never really saw that RVP there. And he started to play there towards the tail end of the 09-10 season. Then 10-11 season, he played there a lot, got goals, then he got injured. Then 11-12 seasons when he played, right? Now I'm saying, what's to say Havertz can't develop in that same way? He's only 25 years old. What is he? He's 25, 26 years old. He's under a manager like Arteta that's consistently improving and developing him. And he's getting a taste for goals more. What's to say that he can't make that evolution from, like, let's say a 10 to 15 goals a season striker to a 20 to 30 goals a season striker? That's very, very feasible in this Arsenal team. So, and I give credit to Havertz as well, because you clearly need a lot of teachability, humility. You need to be malleable, moldable to be able to come into a new team, embrace the new system, embrace the manager's ideas so quickly, where you've got every coach that unanimously says about you that you're a joy to work with. So kudos to him. Brilliant player, not yet, but good player in my book, totally.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, I think it was actually the Community Shield. James, you remember we did the watch along where he started up front, and he was good that day. And he was good that day.
He was.
A lot of what he did that was good is actually a lot of the good that he displayed against Tottenham. The idea that we're probably going to have to forego possession. You're probably not going to be getting balls played in behind in the 6-yard box, for example. You're going to be a target man. You're going to have to win the knock-ons. You're going to have to put yourself about. You're going to have to ultimately disrupt play. And when you do, when the ball does come to you and you're the guy on the break, you don't have the natural attributes very often to drive towards goal and outpace a centre-back or a full-back. So you're going to have to hold it up and try and find the wingers. And that is ultimately what he had to do against Tottenham. And I thought he did so superbly. And I think one thing that we can't really look past, and I know this is going to come across as slightly condescending when talking about Chelsea, but it is what it is, right? When you're taking someone in from that sort of environment, I mean, that environment for years now has been a relative circus, all right? And I said this on AFTV and it got clipped up a lot, but for me, it was sort of like, when you're taking in an animal from a rather unhealthy environment, it takes a little while before that animal starts being itself and being comfortable around you, right? And you saw that with Kai Havertz in his first few months. There were times when he kicked a ball and I thought, this is outrageous. A professional footballer kicking a ball with that little conviction. I mean, I can't believe that I'm seeing this on a football pitch, right? But you see that very, very rarely from him now. And almost everything that he does has an element of conviction. You can see that. I mean, the touch to ultimately set up Bukayo Saka, for example, in the Brighton game, and playing that down the wing, that was something that we would have never dreamed of seeing from him at the beginning of last season. Even the touch to bring the ball down against Brighton and get through for the one-on-one that he ultimately, many people will say he should have scored. That was fantastic play there. And we saw so much of it against Tottenham. And one of the things that he's done that I think has really won fans over, look, you're not ever going to win fans over unless you perform. That's a given. I understand that. But there is just something about him, whether it's, if you remember, I think it was the 2-2 at Stamford Bridge, he absolutely crashes through one of their players on the touchline. And I'm worried that he's going to get sent off. But he gets it. He knows that he's an old Chelsea boy and he wants people to know that he's an Arsenal player now. You see the press conference that he did before this. Now, I'm not chatting to Timo Werner. I don't chat to no Spurs players. He's doing all of that. And ultimately, that is also how you get us on side with performances. And now you look at him. He's up there. He's up there as one of the most selected strikers in Fantasy Premier League right now. So he can't be that bad, mate.
Well, I think we'll go into the analysis of performance, but you've touched on something there that I mentioned for Arsenal. I really want to just hammer this point home. Players that get it and that fans can resonate with, like, they can't be underestimated. I know to maybe fans outside of Arsenal fans looking in, it's kind of like, oh, you just like players because they're passion merchants or whatever. But, I used the example when he pushed the Porto manager. Like, It wasn't there just a collective, yes, like, we all loved it. Fuck off, Conceição, you bastard. You know what I mean? Like, all that nonsense he spoke about Arteta. And Kai Havertz just did what we all wanted to do to the bloke. Tottenham away, like, battling with their centre-backs, like, going down, pretending he had an injured neck, to waste time, everything. Then when he does win a throw by the crowd, he's sort of getting them going. And there have just been lots of moments like that. You're right, Chelsea, when he scored that goal against Chelsea, none of this like, I won you the Champions League. He's like, hey, what was he doing? What's his celebration? Like, he's loving it. He's like, you know what? You're going to give it to me. I'll give it back. Like, and I think I wanted to touch on that from a personality perspective because, even when he's been interviewed, are you a midfielder? Are you a 10? Are you a striker? He's gone, I'm bored of. I think he literally said, "I'm kind of bored of answering this. I'll just play what I'm asked to play." Like, and I think there's this thing that we make more of it than he does. He will just do what the manager requires of him, and this is where I think football has evolved upon without trying to overdo it. You mentioned RVP there. Now, I think Van Persie for me is one of the best strikers I've ever seen in the Premier League, and I just don't think Havertz will get to those levels. But will he get to the level where you framed it as, can he get 20, 25 goals a season for Arsenal? I mean, why not? Like, we're a team that create enough chances. He's got speed in behind. He's got height as well. He takes a good penalty. Yeah, I think he can get to a level where he's leading the line for us, and we're not worried about him. We're not screaming for a striker because actually the trust is starting to build there. And, I think he has been brilliant in 2024 because when I look at some of the big away games, Brighton away, superb. Well, do you get a goal? There you go. Thumbs up. There you go. My laptop agrees. Brighton away, Man United, he puts it on the plate for Trossard. Really brilliant little bit of skill to get us the 1-0 win there. Fantastic away at Tottenham to get the third goal, which ultimately proved the winning goal, 3-4 months back. Again, playing a big performance in this match too, getting the goal that gets us the 2-1 win against Everton on the final day. Okay, City winning meant nothing, but we had to win that anyway. Just popping out with big goals and big moments and big performances, and a work rate. When I said football's evolved, I sort of flew past that point quite quickly, but football's evolved to a point where, look how much demand Arteta puts on his players off the ball. And if Havertz is doing that right, we can't just ignore it because it doesn't make the comms. It's still really impressive football. And he's a really intelligent player who's doing everything Arteta's asking him to do. And I just wanted to give him real praise for that.
Absolutely, that's equally applicable to the wingers, the off the ball stuff, right? Everyone does it. I mean, one thing that I think, going back to Tosin's point as to how Kai Havertz could be remembered or perceived going forward, I always look back at what I think was one of the most devastating front threes that we've seen in recent years, where you're looking at Mane, Firmino, and Salah. Now, one of the reasons that people sort of put up with the fact that Firmino, notwithstanding the fact that he was playing through the middle, wasn't a 35 goal a year striker or whatever, is because you had Mane and Salah ultimately being golden boot winners. So everyone understood that Firmino was someone who got goals and someone who could finish, but acted as a facilitator for what was also greatness on the wings. So if you're looking at Martinelli, for example, or Sterling or whoever it is, and if you're looking at Saka, if their numbers for goals suddenly bump up by 5 to 7 in the league this year, and a large part of that is Kai Havertz is doing, then suddenly the way in which he will be perceived as an Arsenal player will change wholesale.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one thing that is brilliant about him, though, that I know you've got all of these merchants saying, oh yeah, football in 2024, we get gassed over metrics and striker movements as opposed to goals. Yes, I'm not saying he shouldn't get goals. He should get goals. But again, I would just watch. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you watch the Rio Ferdinand interview, the guy's movement is very good. It's very good. How he's able to move defenders out of position so that he can attack the space. The guy, he's got the hallmarks of what it takes to actually be a really good player. And why I'm happy for him is that he just looks happy playing football. He's not looked happy since he left Leverkusen. And confidence plays a big part in player form. So, let's just see where he can go. I think I agree with you. I think he definitely deserves credit. Am I going to say he's the catalyst for Arsenal doing, because there's a bunch of things working simultaneously, but it's not a coincidence that when he moved striker, it coincided with a massive upturn in our form where we just went on the rampage. So kudos to him.
Absolutely agree. And just to round off on the Kai Havertz section, which I'm glad we've sort of given him the time, because I think it's also so easy a year on from all the conversations. Why did we sign him? Why did we spend the money? What a waste. Kudus was there. A lot of the stuff I said, by the way.
So did I.
I think, I think it's only right that, you look back at what you got wrong in your opinions. And for me, did I get it right? I think Kudus is going to be a superstar. So, am I wrong to think we should have signed him a year ago? Okay, that's another conversation. But I really felt Arteta had wasted his money on this one. And I really didn't see how Kai Havertz and David Raya were going to improve us to the levels we needed to beat City. It's not just on them two, but they, for me, have done their part. And Timber and Rice, and we've only seen Timber for 5 games. That's aged as a very good transfer window. And I'm at a point where I just see all hits in those signings. Now, some people might go, for 65 million, have you got a 65 million pound player? Well, I'll go, well, okay, let's bring out Mudryk and Anthony and Sancho and loads of others if we want to have those conversations. Kai Havertz, at 20 million less than most of those, is looking a very, very sensible investment at the moment for someone who can play multiple positions, to the point where we're even tempted.
Richarlison's one.
Richarlison's 60 million pound player. I know who's
Darwin Núñez, AEMs, come on.
Yeah. And also, it's so easy to go, yeah, Arsenal got better, but what about the player himself? Everything, if we haven't learned by now that everything Arteta's Arsenal do is because of the first to the 11th player all doing it together. We are not trying to beat City on individual moments. We're quite the opposite. We want more of that. We don't have that. It's all on coaching and togetherness and work rate and tactical nous. That's what's doing it. And every player has to play their part in that. Kai Havertz managed to get 8 duels won in 13 aerial duels attempted. He ranked first for intensive runs against Spurs, first for off-the-ball runs, first for pressures in the final third, first for pressures resulting in a turnover. By the way, these numbers are good, and you'll be seeing them on screen, but we're talking 13 final third pressures, 7 pressures that result in a turnover. He ranked second for distance covered and second for sprint. So again, what we don't want to appreciate work rate because it's not as impressive as, you know, bringing the ball down with your chest, spinning and firing it into the top corner. Of course, we want a player that can do that, but it doesn't mean he's not playing well because he's not doing the exceptional things you'd expect a multi-million-pound striker to do. So well done to Kai Havertz. But let's try and rank where he stands amongst other players we've signed from Chelsea. There are
I want to know who you've got on this list. You know, when you sent me this topic throughout the day, I just thought, okay, this could go one way or another with some of these. So let's go.
Look, I know which way that most of them are going to go.
Yeah, this is going to be tricky. So
that's what also makes Havertz a good player. We may just have ended that curse of buying. Actually, I'm going to ruin it, but yeah, buying from Chelsea, bad players.
You might have. Okay, so I'm just setting up the iPad. All right,
I'm bringing it up on my screen now. Hold on.
Okay, yeah. So you guys might
I remember the categories.
So I've sent you the tier list. You can all see it now on your screens, people, as well.
Yeah.
We've got the players: William Gallas, Lassana Diarra, Yossi Benayoun, Petr Cech, David Luiz, Willian, Jorginho, Kai Havertz, and I've included Raheem Sterling. So we're going to make a prediction. We're going to go through them. The categories are that they improved Arsenal. That's the best. That they came in and they improved us. They played a part. They made no real impact. Or they were a complete disaster. Are we ready?
Are you going to start with Gallas, bruv?
I think we've got to start all the way back and make our way to now. Okay, so I'm starting with William Gallas. Let's do it. I think this is difficult, by the way.
Play the part.
Are we talking purely on the pitch? Because I think some of these signings were actually catastrophic for Arsenal's reputation off the pitch. This is part of the problem with some of these signings, and that actually had a tangible impact upon our perception as a club for some of these guys. Yeah,
you could think about all these things if you want.
You're going to play the part, James. What are you going with, Gallas?
Gallas played the part. I mean, that 07-08 season, he was good. I mean, he had his tantrum and crybaby moment, meltdown as our captain. That pretty much was him saying we throw away the league, but he did play a part. And he dunked on his former team for us. Come on.
I think he played a part. Like we weren't full banter era at this point. We're still a good team that challenged for a few titles ish. We still, got to the odd Champions League, I think quarters, semi-finals. We all, he had the big goal against the odd team every now and again. The problem is he goes down as just fundamentally one of the worst captains we've ever had.
Oh, not the worst. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that will always, and so for me, I almost think you can't say he's no real impact. He's either played a part or disaster. Like he's almost one of.
You know what? There is an one of the arguments for no real impact is because I honestly don't think that the landscape of the team and what we were achieving tangibly changed because of his arrival.
Okay, that's a fair point.
That's the issue, isn't it? That's the issue.
That is a fair point.
If we're looking at off the pitch, for me, I put that in disaster. Because now that goes into for me. You've spoken about the tantrum, for example. It's one of those that when we do talk about previous signings that we've made from Chelsea, it's immediately one that gets brought up, and it's marred the perception of a lot of good business that we've subsequently done with Chelsea because of signings like that. But I think for this, it's probably fair if we limit it to solely footballing purposes. And to that end, I've already been outvoted 2-1. So
you've convinced me now.
You have.
That's actually swayed me. I'm thinking you're right. We didn't get any better for having him.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point.
Right.
Actually.
No,
it's
real
kind
impact.
of like played a part in what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just thinking in my mind, what did he play a part in? No real impact.
Cool. All right, there he goes. Okay, this is gonna be fun. Lassana Diarra. Only had him a year before we went to Portsmouth. Not even. Maybe we had him 6 months.
No real impact. But he looked good though when he played.
He
But he
did.
was just impatient.
Yeah, that's a straight down the middle one, isn't it?
Yeah, no real impact. The guy, honestly, I don't even think we had him the full year. I actually think it might have been 4 or 5 months before he went to Portsmouth. So,
Yeah.
okay, Yossi Benayoun.
That's interesting.
Played a part. I liked him. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
liked him too.
I like Benayoun.
I can see James was about to say improved Arsenal. You know, I could see.
Think about it. That season when it didn't look like we were gonna get Champions League, he came in and he gave the team a boost. I remember I remember the game where we was it 4-4 against at home against Norwich. The game if we just win that match, fourth was pretty much done, and we just made life very very difficult for ourselves. But Benayoun balled out of his skin. He had some good games for Arsenal. I think so.
And also, the context is we just lost Fabregas, we just lost Nasri. Van Persie had a year left. We'd lost in previous years Adebayor, Kolo Toure, who else? Gail Clichy, I think. Yeah, Gail Clichy had gone. So we lost a lot of players, a lot of very, very good players. Gilberto, Flamini. So we needed someone to come in and just be functional. And we lost Fabregas and Nasri, were two of our most creative sparks. Rosicky was injury prone. I don't think it's played a part, but I think he low key for the mess we were in, he did improve us a bit.
He did.
And
had to do with the likes of Jorginho that season.
I forgot about him.
Shamak.
For me, he played a part in steadying what already appeared to be a sinking ship in many ways, right?
Yeah,
and that's why I put him in the played a part role. If we're talking about, well, I mean, I keep forgetting what the category above is. No, absolutely not improved Arsenal. I'm sorry, no, that's not going in the green. No.
I know. I was trying it. This next one, I think I might have scraps of people over him. Petr Cech. Because if you're wondering why, I did not rate this guy at Arsenal. But I'm really interested to know what you guys think.
Disaster. Sorry.
Oh.
Disaster.
So you feel even more strongly than I do.
Yeah, he had some good games here and there, but we got him when he was way past it. I never saw I saw so many. He had clangers in him each season, and yes, the season we bought him, I think when that was the season where that was when Leicester won the league, I believe. Yeah. Leicester won the league that season, and Ozil started off well. But he had some clangers, man, and from that season on, he just so many mistakes. I'm just like, why have we bought this guy? He's terrible. Nah, I'm going disaster.
Well, so actually, I'll come clean. I was even, for everything I just said, I was actually even going to have him in no real impact because I don't think we got any better or worse. But now I think about it, we probably did get a bit worse, actually. I mean, we had him, we challenged Leicester, and then the year after we fell fifth, if I'm not mistaken. Then we replaced him for Bernd Leno after a year or two.
Yeah, but was that on him or was that because he was the only business we did in that bloody window?
Okay, that's part of it. And also, you're talking about the outside stuff, Sharoy. I know this isn't his fault, but once he left us, he took an upstairs job at Chelsea immediately. Yeah, and I know he's right. I'm not having a go at him for doing that. But it really just felt like we did someone a favour who wanted to stay in London and keep
exactly. That's exactly what it was.
To end up going back to Chelsea in the end and doing a job for them.
The reason I was looking at my phone is I was trying to make sure that I was right as to who his predecessor was. You guys might remember better than me, but was it Ospina?
Well, Szczesny went through bad form and Ospina came in. I actually didn't even think Ospina was a bad goalkeeper. I felt in Szczesny and Ospina we were covered. Not covered, but Cech wasn't the answer. Cech had some good moments, and I think he was part of an FA Cup winning team, to be fair. And actually, what I would say, he's an ultimate professional. I don't think, for everything I've just said there, I don't think for 1 second he came in and didn't give his best. He was just past it. And disaster feels strong because I don't think we got significantly worse because of him.
It's a tier in between that and no real impact, isn't it? It's a tier in between that and no real impact for me, but there isn't one, so we need to make a decision.
Well, what would you go, Sharoy? What's your? Did you rate him as a goalkeeper? for us.
At Chelsea, one of the greatest. One of the best defensive units I've seen at Chelsea, which is why I was so distraught at the version of him that we got. It was again indicative of really, really poor business, and as you say, doing a favour for a signing that at the time you make the signing can ostensibly be justified to the wider public because of his reputation historically. But anyone who applies an ounce of common sense will know that you're not getting a player that's going that way. You are getting a player that's going that way. And anyone who had those concerns was then vindicated when you saw his performance at Arsenal. And that, for me, again, I'm looking at if I limit it to football, I would say no real impact, because for everything that we say about clangers, I mean, Ospina not so much, but Szczesny had a few in him at his time at Arsenal as well, all right? So I don't think any of that was actually determinative. But again, in terms of what happened after that particular window and the years of absolute strife that followed when it came to the perception of us as a club that does horrible business and not being able to attract proper players and dropping out of the Champions League and all of those sorts of things, that window was one that had a catastrophic impact upon the club.
Because he won goalkeeper of the year his first season, didn't he?
And he actually did have a lot of clean sheets, I think.
Yeah, he got Golden Glove or something.
Let's go no real
impact.
Yeah, let's go no real impact for that alone, because you're right, there were some impressive stats. And he was part of a team that you could argue finished second. Not a lot of others did. David Luiz, interesting one.
Improved Arsenal. He did. I've had many arguments with many people about this, but I think at the time that he came in, he actually did a pretty solid job for us. I'm not suggesting that he didn't have some horrible errors in him. I'm not suggesting that he wasn't rash, but he came in and just sort of elevated the tenacity within the defence and had an element of nous that I think a back four lacked at that time, having lost some pretty notable defenders. So for me, thinking about it, I think that's the bracket that I'd have to put him in.
I go improved.
Okay. Well, we'll go with that because I'm outvoted here. I would have said played a part, and here's why. Ultimately, and I'm a massive David Luiz fan. I think those games in the FA Cup, the semi-final and the final, I think you can attribute a lot of the reason why we won that first FA Cup with Arteta, to David Luiz's performances in those big games. I think he was huge. I actually think he did buy into the project. I actually do think he bought into Arteta, and Arteta liked him a lot. I actually think a younger David Luiz is a defender Arteta would have loved. Getting him to step into midfield or whatnot. Maybe doesn't have the athleticism that the others have. The reason I disagree with him improving Arsenal is because he literally came in after we finished 5th and we finished 8th and then 8th again. And he was a regular part of those teams. And while he's a big part of why we won FA Cup, and I actually think he played well on the most part for us and I liked him, we just fundamentally didn't improve because we had him.
Oh, you're okay. You're right. Look, you're right. I'm not going to argue with you there, man.
That's a good point.
I'm not going to argue with you there. Okay.
It's up to you guys. I'll stick. I've just made my pitch. I like that.
It was very convincing. It was very convincing.
Argue played a part. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I feel as though he improved elements of our defence, but that isn't what the box says. It says improved Arsenal, and to that end, James, you're right. You're right. Okay.
Well, maybe the boxes are wrong.
No.
But yeah, and I think that maybe this section will make more sense as we come to a few players later. Willian, is there much that needs to be said? He is one of the, even on a free transfer, is one of the worst signings of all time, performance-wise.
But massive respect to him for recognising that and agreeing to terminate the contract and just saying, you know what, this isn't working for anyone. A lot of players don't do that. A lot of players wouldn't have done that. He could have very easily enjoyed his cushy life in London, taken his paycheck. He didn't do that. So for that, my friend, massive respect.
Totally agree. And good on him coming then back to Fulham, to the Premier League, and reminding people what he's about. Good on him. He came back and for 2 seasons showed that there's a player there. So, yeah, good on him for all that. But at Arsenal, it just was a nightmare. But the team was a nightmare. I just think where I didn't forgive Willian is he was an experienced player who just didn't embody anything in terms of work rate and energy and commitment to the cause that we now see from these players. And then when you injected the youngsters like Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka that season, they showed that. They showed at least something that made you go, that's why we liked El Neni. No one can tell me that El Neni in his prime was better than Willian. There's no chance. But the reason we put up with him for so much longer was there was a simplicity to his game and a commitment to the cause every time that made you go, all right, I can see where you're doing a job here. And Willian, unfortunately, we just never got that out of him.
Who were we linked with in that Willian window that everyone really wanted? And then we got Willian and we went, oh.
Husam Aouar, was
it? Yes.
Oh, maybe. When he was at Lyon,
yeah.
I think that played a part. I think that played a part too. What's going on with that guy? What's he doing these days?
Last he was at Roma, wasn't he?
Yes, he was at Roma last year.
But I don't think he's at Roma anymore. Maybe he's gone Turkey or something like that.
Mad. He might be in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, no way.
I think he might have been starting behind Ivan Toney the other day. I might have just made that up, but I feel
you might be right on it. Carry on. I'm going to check.
I think he might be playing with Benzema. Al Ittihad?
Al Ittihad, yeah. That's the one.
Not once, right? In 7 years of school education, could I remember anything I read in any of those textbooks? But I see one Al Ittihad starting 11 with Aouar in it, and my brain goes, let's keep that in your head.
You only remember what you care about, mate, and you care about football.
Yeah, it's true. That's what my wife.
You're in the right career. Carry on.
It's true. All right, let's go to the three most recent then. Jorginho, and I think this is when things start to look a bit more positive. I think there's an argument for he's played his part, but for me, he's improved us.
I could make a very strong argument as to why he's improved us. I don't know if you watched and again, this is, this is on the pitch. Actually, this is on the pitch. If you listen to the interview he did on the David Seaman podcast, Seaman says he's sort of talking about how he never really wanted to go into coaching, but he sort of gets to Arsenal and they say, listen, you're a bit of a leader, just do your coaching badges or whatever. And he does like one session and absolutely falls in love with it. I distinctly remember Liverpool at home, I think, when he started last year. And it was one of the few games that I got to see at the Emirates from very, very good seats, thanks to a friend. He really is a conductor, man. This guy, even if we're not just talking about improving Arsenal with his own performances, he absolutely makes sure that the way that Arteta wants his philosophy and his tactics enforced on the pitch, Odegaard is the lead enforcer, but when Jorginho is on the pitch, he is very much that. And if you listen to stuff that comes out of the dressing room, I think it was Big Gabby that said, I don't know what I'd do if Jorginho left because the guy's like an elder brother to me. He is so integral. He's so integral in that dressing room. And I'm almost doing him a disservice by not talking about his own footballing ability, because a lot of people sort of skirt over that Liverpool performance where he was incredible, the Newcastle away performance when he was absolutely fantastic. He has had some very, very good standout performances in an Arsenal shirt, and he wasn't brought in to start every game week in, week out and be that absolute difference-making, determinative midfielder. So he has very, very much lived up to expectation.
I have to agree with you there. And his mentality as well, it's clear. It's added to the team. It 100% has. I agree with everything you said. I'd say improved.
I agree. He's improved Arsenal. I mean, even if you're improving the squad, you've improved Arsenal for me. I think when he came in, it was at a time where we were desperate for a number 6. Remember, we'd missed out in the window before on Douglas Luiz. And the thought of one of El Neni or Lokonga having to play if Partey got injured, we were terrified of it. And then Jorginho came in and we were underwhelmed because we wanted Caicedo. And then we were also underwhelmed because he was such a different profile of player. And I think what Arteta and Jorginho have taught us that if you've got it up here, your deficiencies don't matter because you'll just play the game differently. And Jorginho's come in and he's played to a level at Arsenal where when he had to play in this North London derby on Sunday, I was still calm. Jorginho is not Declan Rice, and he was playing in that position.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's the polar opposite. Literally, one strength is the other's weaknesses, if you like. But Arsenal defensively didn't skip a beat, and that's supposedly what Declan Rice makes us imperious with. It's his covering ground, but through positioning, understanding the game, reading, like you said, conducting. Jorginho not once got overrun by that Tottenham midfield. Now, did he have his best game on the ball? We talked about that. No, actually, probably didn't do the things we hoped he'd do a little bit more of on the ball. But off the ball, we didn't miss Declan Rice, which is crazy. And he's played away at St James's Park when we won. He's played away at Villa Park when we won. He's played away at, Tottenham, we just mentioned we won. Old Trafford and we won. Actually, I think he came on and Partey started that. Manchester City. He's played in both games where one we won and the other we drew. Just huge performances from this guy in big games where people didn't think he had it. And I think while he's won a Champions League at Chelsea, and so he will probably be remembered as some sort of, if not legend, certainly he'll be held in high regard by Chelsea fans for what he did in his time there. He's also kind of known as the Sarri ball player and the guy who, moved Kante out of his best position supposedly and all this stuff. And I don't think he gets quite the love and appreciation for what he did at Chelsea. And I think he'll get that at Arsenal. I just think he'll almost leave Arsenal with a better reputation than he left Chelsea with. And so for that, I think he certainly improved us.
But the expectation when we signed him also goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. It was because when we brought in an ex-Chelsea player, we're all sitting there going, oh, come on, not another one, man. Willian, Gallas, all of these jokers. And now we're getting the guy that's he's third in the Ballon d'Or list or whatever. He's won everything there is to win. He's gone and done the Euros. He's gone and done the Champions League. And now you want to buy him? What's his incentive? It's a very easy argument to make. But I also think that means that ultimately when you look back on a signing, you can perhaps look back at it with slightly rose-tinted glasses because he's exceeded expectation.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So funny. Well, we signed him and it was a case of, oh no, we signed another Chelsea player. If only sort of James from the future had turned up in the TARDIS and said, don't worry, James, 2 more to come. and they're Havertz Sterling. Yeah. I don't know what I'd have done. But there we go. Isn't football funny? Crazy. Trust me well. Let's talk Kai Havertz then. And look, let's not go into big details because we've talked about him a lot. But for me, he's fundamentally improved us. Whether he himself has been spectacular or not, I mean, the trajectory of the team, especially when he's played up front, I feel like it's undeniable. But, convince me otherwise if there is another.
I would rather Kai Havertz play up front in a lot of games now than Gabriel Jesus. Now, whether that's because of natural footballing ability, finishing, or fitness and reliability is a separate conversation. And I always felt as though I would much rather have Kai Havertz playing up front than Eddie Nketiah, particularly when Kai Havertz demonstrated what he could do up front. So to that extent, I'm comparing him to the options that were there at the time that we signed him. It's very difficult to make an argument that he hasn't improved us on that basis alone.
I agree. He's improved us. Offensively, in that striker position, he's improved us.
Yeah. Now, has he improved us to the extent that a lot of people believe another 9 would? That's a separate conversation. Has he improved us to the extent that a lot of people think a 65 million player ought to improve you when you're chasing Manchester City? That's maybe another conversation, but that's not the conversation we're having now. It's a base level. Has he improved Arsenal? And the answer is yes.
And that's the job of every signing. I mean, I know we can talk a lot about, the players' individual performances, but you sign a player in the hope that the team improves. We're not signing Kai Havertz hoping he walks away with the golden. Well, okay, we are. But ultimately, we're signing him so that we lift the Premier League title, not, hey, come here, because we want you to realise your ambitions of winning the golden boot. We'd love you to be the PFA team of the year. And you know what? Ballon d'Or shortlist, you can do it. If he does all that, then that's because the team have done well, but that's not, we're signing him for the improvement of the team. And I just think, it's like you guys said, we've improved for having him up front. The form we've been on when he's led the line, look at that away record we touched on earlier, is exceptional. So we're going to make a prediction then on Raheem Sterling. What do we think? He's on a dry loan. Will we sign him after? We don't know.
I'd love to sign him after.
You'd love to sign him, permanently?
Yeah, I think he's going to improve us. He's a quality player. Classes. Form is temporary, class is permanent. Chelsea can make any good player look bad. I think we've seen that.
It's true. It's true.
He's going to improve Arsenal. I can see it, man. Like he's going to come in. He's going to be he's our second best winger at the club.
Maybe let's put him there now.
I'd go so far to say maybe after Havertz, maybe after Saka and Havertz, he's our best. He's our third best attacking option. I love his directness. His pace. He's someone who's going to get the ball on the turn and run at players. Probably only Saka really does that. Martinelli is meant to do that, doesn't really do that. One of the best things about Sterling, he's one of the best, in my opinion. This is even before Arsenal. He's one of the best in the league at penetrating runs. He's one of the best off the ball runners in the league, in my opinion. I think that type of quality, experience, directness going into the box. Taking a defender inside, outside like a proper winger does, I just don't see how he doesn't improve Arsenal.
It's a very strong argument. What do you think, Shore?
You remember the show that we did with George and Ben, and we hadn't brought Sterling in at that point. And your last question on that show was, does Sterling improve Arsenal? And everyone said yes. And I did the classic lawyer thing, and I said, improve Arsenal to the extent that if we only bring him in, I'm confident that we win the league, or improve Arsenal. Because again, for me, there were two different questions, right? And now, I mean, everything that Tosin says is bang on, don't get me wrong. And I think a lot of what I said about Jorginho in terms of what he's achieved and how he could perhaps elevate the likes of Martinelli and ensure that they elevate certain aspects of their game. He does improve Arsenal. That for me is a given, particularly because of the fact that we let go of players like Reece Nelson, who was better than him anyway. And we don't have another Martinelli type winger with that kind of pace and that level of nous and being able to beat a man and make penetrating runs. So yes, fantastic option he does. But I know that there will be people that are watching this, that those standards merchants that think we're all paid by Arsenal Football Club to say nice things about them, they will be saying, yeah, but you've taken a player without any evidence that he's going to be able to replicate the form that you were just talking about when you're talking about the heights that he's hit. So it is an element of a prediction. We haven't seen much here. But if you had a gun to my head right now and said, do you think he's going to be better for Arsenal than he was at any moment in his Chelsea career? I would say yes. And I mean that. I do mean that. Because I just think that we cultivate a far better environment for players generally, but certainly a player of that ilk. And I know that a lot of people might want to point towards that slightly indifferent cameo that he had against Tottenham, but I don't think you can make too many judgments about the player. He's going to be integral going forward, particularly given that we're going to have to rotate that squad a lot. In fact, I want to see him starting on the right against Atalanta for Saka this Thursday.
We're going to go into that now, but to round off this tier list, I'll go with I think he's going to improve Arsenal because you're right to make the difference. Do I think he's the signing, the forward sign that's going to win us the title, that difference maker I was looking for? No. Tosin, you seem a lot more, convinced about the player in terms of the quality he can add and so where he is in the pecking order of the quality of attackers we've got. And I think if you get the Sterling of even 2 years ago, he will be that. He will be sublime for us. Is that still there? We will see. Is Arteta the guy to unlock it? Probably better than anyone out there to potentially do it. So I think he'll improve us. I do. And I'm excited to see him. And I was happy about the signing and I remain excited about the signing. So yeah, let's see what happens. But it looks like then this is our final list with Sterling slightly on the side because we don't quite know. Jorginho and Havertz have improved Arsenal. With Sterling, we expect him to. Benayoun and Luiz absolutely played a part. Gallas, Diarra and Cech, no real impact. But like we said with Gallas, could easily have been one up or one below. It's just so many highs and lows in that spell. But Willian, the only real disaster there. But like we said, big up to him for tearing up the contract and actually proving his worth at Fulham after that. That was fun. We should do more of these. It's a fun little exercise. Yeah,
I can imagine this is going to annoy. I'm looking forward to reading the comments on this video because I reckon some of those are going to annoy a lot of people.
I think so too. Let us know in the comment section below which ones you agree with, don't agree with. And look, it's all a bit of fun. Ultimately, the point is the ones we still have, we all really appreciate and love. So there we go. We're into the final couple minutes. Let's just get quick score predictions on Atalanta and a general feeling. Sum up mine or forever Arsenal. I actually think we'll draw this game. I went for a 1-1 or a 0-0. I can't remember. I feel like the physical exertion of the North London derby, the fact that City's so soon after, the fact that there's 7 other games in the Champions League, this is one of the away ones. Still missing Erdegaard, Rice sort of a little bit hit and miss coming back into the team. I can see this being a rusty one. I can see this one. This is going to be ugly for me. I'd be amazed if we go there and play our best football and win. Even if we win, I could see it being something a little bit just effective more than anything. So I'm going to go with a draw. But I don't really think that's a bad result. I think with this new setup, and Atalanta certainly one of the better teams we're facing, especially being the away team in that higher ranked group, I think a draw's fine. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was thinking a draw. I mean, I've seen that they got injuries, but I think no Erdegaard is going to be a blow.
And they've had some bad results, Tosin. It's worth saying they didn't
start the season off well, but they've come back. They kind of come back into some form. I mean, they beat Fiorentina 3-2 on the weekend. Lookman's back in the team. He looked good.
What an assist! Did you see that?
Yeah, brilliant assist, and even his goal was good as well. The Catalari looks, they look sharp. But I mean, you got to back yourself against any back line that has Kolasinac in it. Surely.
You'd think, right?
That was my thinking.
And the midfielder that was key to success, their success last season, Coop Miners, he's at Juve now. So Arsenal can go there and nick the win, but our European record away from home is not the best. Even when we have our best teams, I don't know what it is, but when we go away in European games, we just churn out dog poo. So I'm thinking it's a draw. I'd love a win, but I think we'll get a draw. I can just see that.
What about you, Shura?
Listen, man, I told you that North London derby euphoria wasn't wearing off that easy, bro. I'm going for a win against Atalanta, yeah? I'm going for a win. And one of the reasons I am, man, again, might be naive, but I know that we have a pretty poor European away track record over recent years, but our away record generally in 2024 has been obscene, and we're generally quite good away from home. I want to see these players, and I do think these players, having fought so hard to get back into the Champions League and having sort of understood that they went out last year on a bit of a whimper, I hope that they don't make the same mistake this year. And I think that one thing that Manchester City fans always say is that even though you're playing often and winning is a fantastic thing, because that level of winning breeds winning. You just bounce from one game into another. And looking at what I think the front three in the midfield could be, I think Jorginho probably retains his place because Partey's played those 2 games for Ghana too and looks leggy. I think Rice comes back in, pretty solid for me. And I think Jorginho is probably quite well suited to that sort of Champions League away day. Looking at the front three, I would love to see Martinelli continue and play himself into some form. I would love to see Saka get a rest, and you've got a very, very experienced guy in Sterling who is going to want to break into that starting 11 week in, week out, so that man has a point to prove. And if it's not Kai Havertz, let's see what Gabriel Jesus has. If I'm not mistaken, his Champions League record is better than his Premier League record, so why can't we go there and score 2 and win, you know? I think we will concede because that is some atmosphere from the little bits that I've seen. I don't watch them week in, week out. But that's why on my podcast, on my channel, I went for a 2-1 to us, and I'm going to stick to it.
Good on you, man. And let's hope we get it done. That'll be a fantastic result. Really confidence boosting ahead of City. Of course, we play on Thursday night. There'll be a match report on this channel, so look out for that. Atalanta put 3 past Liverpool at Anfield last season en route to winning the Europa League and beat the only unbeaten side in Europe in Leverkusen, who were going for an undefeated treble. And Atalanta were the only side to stop them with a 3-0 win. So trust me, they've had some big scouts. Arsenal have to be on it. Really interesting to see with the return of Declan Rice. And at the time of recording, we don't quite know about Martin Odegaard's fitness. That hasn't been confirmed, so we will see. A big thanks to Tosin, man. You've been absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate you joining us, man. Everyone goes. No, it's been fantastic, mate. And everyone go subscribe to Fleet Footed, your YouTube channel, of course. And we will see you on AFTV. And I know you've got your show with Tobes as well. Bad Blood, is it called? Have I got that right?
I don't even know. I think you called it just for the derby, but who knows if that's what it's going to be called.
Nah, the thumbnail was cold. Stick to it, man. I'm telling you, that was good. That was good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, my laptop agrees. There we go. And of course, Sharoy's voice with the One Mic podcast coming out every single week. Great work, Sharoy. And I know that you've been growing very, very quickly, and just massive congrats to you. You're doing some fantastic stuff.
Nice, man.
Thank you, man. I'm sort of looking forward to, as the channel grows, integrating more and more shows, because I know having a one-man podcast, literally just me sitting there talking every week, is probably going to get boring at some point. But until the novelty wears off, I'll keep that one going, and then we'll try and get other people involved.
Great stuff. Everyone, we're going to leave it there. A big, big thank you, and we'll catch you for the match report after Atalanta on Thursday. Really hope you've enjoyed another episode of the Goonerverse podcast with Arsenal fans from around the Arsenal world giving their amazing thoughts. A big thanks to our guest today. If you do want to follow this podcast on the go, you can. It's available on podcast platforms as well. Join us next week where we'll get more Arsenal fans to talk all things Arsenal. A big thank you again.